final thing from me this week. I actually had a friend, Ryan, who listens to the show. He messaged me about our top 5 games that we talked about, and I think we probably mentioned in there about kind of soundtracks to certain games that just kind of stood out and stick in our minds. And he said to me, if you could pick a favourite soundtrack from a TV show, a movie, or a game, what would it be? And I approached the subject with you, and we said, well, let's have a think, and we'll pick one for each, especially for you, Ryan. So, what are yours? Let's start with for a game, because seeing as we touched upon it before.
So the game is actually one of the ones that I put in the top 5, which is Vice City. I think that was it was just, for me, it just blew my mind that you could get in a car and could change the radio and drive around, and it was that experience of being able to set the mood. So if you're, I used to do it, I don't know whether anyone else used to do it, you drive around at night, you'd put, some 80s ballad on, like Mr. Mister, Broken Wings, or Cutting Crew, I've Been Waiting for a Girl Like You, like those tunes. Or you could put, there's the electro sort of channel, if you're doing a mission and you want something a bit more upbeat, or like, I think was that a heavy metal one, or like a rock one. You could put those on if you was being chased. It was just so cool. And they released those on CD, and I've got one of the sort of Vice City CDs. I think it was the electro one. And yeah, introduced me to so many different songs as well, which I thought was brilliant. I'd listen to something and think, wow, what's this? And then sort of look it up and then be into, discovered a load of songs from it too.
Yeah. I think that's the main thing. Either if it's something that you discover. I mean, I mentioned FIFA's before, which I used to discover so many new songs from bands that I now listen to all the time. Yeah. It's definitely a big plus thing if they can get these new up and coming bands or artists on these games as well for their soundtracks. But for me, and I think I mentioned it as well, mine's got to be Crazy Taxi, and I didn't even own the game, but the Offspring, who were huge then anyway, and I would listen to, and it was just opening me up to songs of theirs that I hadn't heard, and we didn't have Spotify then, so it wasn't as easy to go and hear their whole back catalogue.
And I'm right in thinking with it comes up in the corner who's playing. Does it come up on that? Yeah, which makes it even better, doesn't it? Because you'll hear something and think, wow, who's this, and just look and it's there.
So that for me,
it set the pace as well for that game as well, I think, didn't it? Because you got that urgency of you get into the cab and think, oh God, I've got to go now, and I've got to get that fare or whatever.
I can't remember if you mentioned it on the show before, if you just mentioned it to me in passing, but what I like as well, on platforms like Spotify, you can find the soundtracks for these games now, and TV shows and movies. So it was quite handy for doing. What about for TV? I'm going to go next.
My TV one isn't. So I struggle with TV because there are shows which have music all the way through them, and you think like as a soundtrack. And I remember like when being very young and watching programs like The Wonder Years, and they'd have like this signature song, like a normal sort of song, not a theme tune or anything for each show. And watching The Sopranos at the moment as well. Thank you to Adam for the heads up with that. There are certain bits where, like when the episode started, I watched it in season 2, and it had "That Was a Very Good Year" by Frank Sinatra, which I love. It is just such an emotional song, and they set in the beginning of the episode to it. And this is heaven, absolute heaven, experiencing it, but. For me, I associate sort of TV with the themes, and I think certainly again from a nostalgic point of view, the A-Team, for me as a theme
song.
Oh God, yeah, So when I was young, I was obsessed with the A-Team and Knight Rider and those sort of things. They all had really strong themes, but the A-Team, even sort of hearing it now, you think, that's really cool. And I've got the soundtrack. Weirdly, I've got the A-Team soundtrack on CD, which has the theme and then all the incidental music in between as well. It's awesome.
No, that's a good shout, actually. And I struggled a bit with this one. And the only thing I could think of for TV show was an actual soundtrack, and this is going to sound really dreary when I tell you what it is, but it's a soundtrack that I actually looked up on Spotify to
Is
play
it
and
Dawson's
listen.
Creek?
No, why didn't I think of Dawson's Creek?
Because
Oh
that had
God,
really good music.
that had really good music. So to me, it's about how it made me feel during the show, and the music can often set off different emotions. You could be watching a sad thing, and that music will just make it go that bit more.
Yeah,
And for me,
it drove me edge.
yeah, sometimes. But Broadchurch, which was on
Broadchurch.
ITV,
I've never seen it. Heard good things about it, but never
powerful.
watched
It's
it.
so powerful, and the music was by a Icelandic producer. The name escapes me, and I probably would be able to pronounce it right anyway.
No.
But it was just, it really set the tone for the TV show, and just the kind of intense kind of. Obviously, it's a little boy gets killed, and they're trying to work out who's killed, and it's a murder
Right.
mystery kind of show. Um, and there was twists and turns, but that music just kind of kept you kind of on the
Yeah.
edge of your seat. It's really weird to describe, but
No, I
it was
know.
really good as well.
It's a
But
good
just listening to
soundtrack.
it, yeah,
Yeah.
and just listening to it afterwards, it was really
Mm.
good. But yeah, that was a bit of a random one for me, and I'm sure Dawson's Creek would have been up there as well. I'll tell you what my movie is because I want
Cool.
to end with you telling me yours.
Yep.
Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2.
Oh, mate, and why didn't I think of that? 'Cause that is amazing. That is a regular play in this house as
Yeah,
well. So many good songs. Yeah.
the songs on that. I mean, Mr. Blue Sky, that was
Yeah.
one for me. Don't Stop Me Now by Queen was on
Yeah.
there. And Hooked on a Feeling, which I'd
Mm.
never even heard of
No.
before watching that. But
Hadn't
I
you?
mean,
'Cause
no,
that's
no,
from
no.
Reservoir Dogs.
I haven't seen that film. God.
Shame.
But no, I've seen that film. What I was going to say is I haven't seen that film for, I reckon I saw that when I was about 15, 16.
I'm questioning everything now because Reservoir Dogs again, amazing sound. All the Tarantinos have got such good
Hmm.
soundtrack.
Yeah,
I had Reservoir Dogs on CD and Pulp Fiction and that. But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy is
yeah.
so good. Some of the songs on there that I like you said, I had no idea about these songs because the era being 70s. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean
Yeah.
that was the whole thing, wasn't it? Star-Lord's character had that cassette, the Walkman or whatever, and he's listening to
Yeah.
listening to all these old songs from when he was a kid, and that were obviously his mum's. But that, I think it went hand in hand with the
Mm.
film, like it made the
Oh,
film.
definitely. It's got that feel, hasn't it?
Yeah,
The song I love off that soundtrack, I don't know what it is, but I like Pina Colada.
if you
Is
like
just
Pina
if you like
Colada,
Pina
that's
Colada,
it. Yeah, yeah,
just the lyrics in that song are hilarious. Because if you listen to it, he's unhappy with his girlfriend,
yeah.
so he puts an advert in the paper, basically saying, like, "I'm looking for a new woman because I don't like my current one."
Yeah.
And then it turns out that his wife applies to the advert, and they realise that actually I do love her, and and it's all
It's a great
good.
song. It's a great song.
Just what would happen if like me or you did that? That's what you have. It's in the song, whatever. You put an advert in paper and agree to meet a woman. You meet them in a restaurant. It turns out to be your wife. There are lots of questions. Yeah, fair enough. You've been caught out, but
You've been
love.
cool as well. You were going to meet up with someone.
Yeah.
What's your movie
My
soundtrack?
movie, right, is weirdly a film that I've never seen. Yeah, but I
Right.
love the soundtrack to it, and it's a film called Judgment Night, which came out
We
in
was going to say Judgment Day.
no Judgment Night. This one, the sequel.
Terminator.
It's not the sequel. It came out in 1993, but at the time, it was around that time where a lot of alternative music was being released on soundtracks to films. So you had The Crow, which had a
Great
huge
film.
sort of soundtrack and a great film, but the soundtrack has so many sort of classic tunes on it. But what they did for the Judgment Night soundtrack, and I used to read, being into sort of rock and alternative music and stuff, I used to read the magazines like Kerrang, which
Mm.
are like the rock and metal magazines.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they would talk about soundtrack. It paired big rock stars at the time with big hip hop stars at the time
Right.
and got the two together. So you had people like House of Pain, De La Soul, Run DMC, Ice-T, Onyx, all those sort of groups which were really big in hip hop at the time, with Slayer and Faith No More and Sonic Youth and Therapy and Pearl Jam. So it was sort of almost like my two worlds colliding in the middle. And the songs are so good on it. Honestly, check it out. It's just such a good soundtrack. I never saw the film. I just loved the soundtrack and got into it so much. I remember having it on cassette and like listening it again and again and again on the Walkman. But
so was it a merger? Like, you've kind of got me thinking like Jay-Z and Linkin Park.
no, all original songs.
Wow, that's even better.
Completely original songs that they put the two artists in the studios and did a song each, which or the two particular groups did a song together in the studio, and then that was for the soundtrack, which makes it even cooler because you've just got a real blend of the two bands as such with it, and it really, really works.
Was there for you a dream scenario there, or
No.
if you could pick two of your favourite bands or artists from either side, who would it be?
I don't know. That's a really tough question, isn't
Next week you're answering that question.
Well, no, I think it's probably not the most successful version of sort of. See, it's not really my favourite. I was going to say most successful of all time of hip hop and rock would be Aerosmith from Run DMC. Walk This Way, which was a Aerosmith song when they sort of not remixed it, but sort of covered it almost. But
yeah,
it's good. But I don't know. I'll have to think about that.
Yeah. Well,
definitely.
I'll write that down, and that can be one of your questions.
Definitely.